Yeah, man. So let's jump into some of the more recent Panther news. Eddie Pinero was signed to a contract, and now we know that it is a 2-year, $4.1 million deal. What do you guys think about this
Love it.
this deal for Eddie Pinero?
Love it.
I mean, we don't have many better options. Like, I can't tell you a kicker right now that we would have that would be better than Pinero. Pinero was the Atlanta guy, though, right?
That was one game.
No, I get you. You're right, and that's why I'm not going to totally dismiss him.
Yeah, I mean, again, and you guys know how I felt about that. I felt like he did lose that game for us, right? But and that's contrary to Tony's
Don't worry,
belief.
I'm not. I'm not going to argue about it.
but the difference here is if you look at his stats for the year, he is a not top 10 kicker, top 3 kicker in the NFL. No. From a accuracy total, and it wasn't even a matter of like he was taking less kicks. He had like the second largest volume of kicks, and he had the, I believe, second best percentage of makes. Right, so the dude was given plenty of opportunity to miss, and outside of that that one game in Atlanta, which granted was a big deal, especially when you realize how the end of the season happened. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise now that we know what's coming down the pipe for the Panthers. But he, he's been one of the most. He was probably the best kicker we've had in a while. And even if you want to sit there and talk about Zane Gonzalez had 2 season-ending injuries that happened with him warming up. I'm not go and give that guy any type of an extension and bank on him being the guy moving forward. We got lucky that Eddie Pinero happened to be money. And we signed him and he got rewarded for it.
Wild part of the story to this, for me, is that it was just reported that we were releasing Zane Gonzalez initially and going with Pinero. And then like 3 days later, it goes, turns out we didn't release him, traded him to the 49ers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fit is cooking.
Fitterer, man. Oh, by the way, speaking of fit cooking, we got another dono from your bastard son. He says, Tony likes to squat for Scott. Hey. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I feel like with Pinero, like, I'm pretty confident with this guy from, like, 40 yards in. I feel like you've got a very, very, very accurate leg for a mid-range to normal kick, but I don't feel like he has the power or the leg to be a big kicker. I don't think that he's ever going to be the guy that hits a 63-yard field goal to win the game. I feel like he will consistently hit a 40-yard field goal to win the game, which is, a good thing to have. He just doesn't blow me away as a guy that's going to have a big leg. And that's the good news.
The good news with that is that means that we're probably going to be in a lot more short yardage situations that we're going to go for it at 60 yards out and not just, kick a field goal and hope that we're going to win that way. That's that. How many times in our Ron Rivera era did we just settle for field goals, and it ended up being the end of our, end of the game for us because we just kept on putting it on Graham Gano, putting it on Graham Gano. I'm much happier with the idea of, hey, let's get a guy who's money for the most part in those short to mid range, and then still sinks them pretty well beyond 50 when you look at the stats. I wouldn't put him out there for a 60-yarder. I'll agree with that, but quite honestly, if we're kicking at 60 yards, I would much rather go for it or punt the ball and not risk giving the opposing team better field position.
It just gives me no solace because it's like no matter what happens, like we could have a consistent kicker, but then we saw the injury with Zane. It's just like I never feel good. I never feel safe, and that I think we could do a lot worse than Eddie Pinero. But it's like, dude, that gives me no long-term comfort, I guess to say, but I don't know, man. Greg, you had something you want to say?
No, I was going to say, like, I got to kind of temper myself with my expectations because, like, when I say that this is not a guy that can hit like 60-yard field goals consistently, there's only 1 or 2 guys out there that can do that.
Right.
So I can't be too upset if we don't. So I guess all I'm saying is the signing doesn't like excite me. Like it's like, okay, we have a decent kicker.
Yeah.
Like I'm cool with Pinero. We have a decent kicker. We don't have a guy that I'm like, yeah, we got one of the best kickers in the league with Pinero.
Yeah, we have one of the most consistent, and that's what I'll take that at this point in time, especially with a rookie quarterback coming in. If we get down in the red zone, it's not this type of a situation where, man, if you don't make a touchdown here, we are not sure our kicker can actually kick the field goal from here, like we had to deal with Joey Sly, right? So that part I will say that I'm thankful for. Is it a needle mover? No, but it's when you can have consistency at the position. I think that's far more valuable than trying to get the one person who's unlikely to land on the Panther squad, which is going to be like a Justin Tucker-esque type of person. I don't think those things come along very often. So consistency is key at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then let's also talk about this brand new signing for the Carolina Panthers, Camus Kruger Hill. He used to be on the Houston Texans, and basically, if you kind of do the research, it's looking a lot like he's going to be a special teamer, somebody that's going to be on punt returns and kickoff and stuff like that. I'll pull up his PFF stats. They were not great, but this is just another warm body signed by the Panthers, and maybe this is going to benefit our special team. Any opinions on this, boys?
My opinion on this, guys, is clear. Look, every year we sign players that are brought in to play mainly special teams roles and supportive roles to add depth. I think where's interesting here is where the depth is being added is at linebacker, specifically middle linebacker. I wonder what that means. Does that mean that the Panthers are trying to target linebackers in the draft? Can we read the tea leaves on that? But we've had players. Oh God, who was the guy we had? We had him on the show a long time ago that are brought in for those specific roles. Look, we got to talk about it. It's the news. But this is a part of the game, though. These are part of the things that fill out a roster. It is moves like this. If this guy makes a play on special teams or does something to contribute or has to step in for Shaq Thompson for a game or two or something like that and is not a significant liability, those are the type of those signings that make a difference in the long term.
Right.
Yeah, I have his stats from PFF up on screen. In solo tackles, it was 38th. That's tied for 68th. Assists, it was 7th, or he had 7. That's tied for 86th. No interceptions, no forced fumbles. And let's be real, some really bad grades overall.
He wasn't a starter, though. I don't even think, was he?
Yeah, and again, he's a warm body, man. He's a special teams guy. I saw one. I think it might have been a preseason game. He took a pick 6 back to the house. I don't know. It also wouldn't start me if he played for Houston because the Texans were not a good team.
Yeah.
So if he actually did play some meaningful time, that wouldn't surprise me. But hey, before we go any further, man, listen, dude. We have a bunch of people that love to listen to us talk about the Carolina Panthers, no doubt. But we also have this subset of people that only come here for one reason, dude. And that's because they're a bunch of little freaks who like to get shamed by the big daddy himself. Talk to him, Papa.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, history is upon us. We are a few weeks away. Now, you guys may be talking about the draft. I'm talking about Baby Dizzle is going to be here in a few weeks as well. So we're going to find this next few weeks to be super exciting here in the CK household. But you guys have come here to C3 to talk about the Carolina Panthers, the news, the opinions, the news in the NFL, and you haven't hit that like button yet? Well, I have one thing to say to all you absolute freaks. Subscriber shame.
205 people watching, 75 thumbs up. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell for every single time the C3 Panthers podcast goes live. Consider joining for $1.99 a month with specialized early film room sessions that goes live to all of our super fan subscribers. Hit that join button. We appreciate each and every single one of you. And hey, man, listen, me and Tony are very heartened by the amount of people putting C3 in their username, baby.
Thing.
We love that shit.
Join our gang, bro.
Dude, we have a real Panthers gang out here, boy. Put that C3 in the username, wherever you want to do it, man, on Twitter, on YouTube. Let everybody know, C3 Panther Nation, we roll deep, baby, whenever we keep pounding. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know exactly what I'm saying. Hey,
word. Join our gang, folks. Join our gang. We're here on Tuesday nights. We're here on Friday nights. We're here almost every dang day as we continue to cover in some form of capacity, whether at CarolinaCatChronicles.com or wherever else. You know what's turning out to be a pleasant component to the Carolina Panthers is David Tepper's wife. She turns out to be the best person in this ownership group of David Tepper. Second wife, she's the looker. Look how she is short. Shout out to David Newton for a great tweet where he said that way when she was hugging Bryce Young.
Bryce Young is taller than,
and he was like, just a note, he's the taller one of the two. Great, yeah, David Newton, the goat. But they brought in Damar Hamlin, and the Panthers players participated along with the American Heart Association in a CPR training event. Now, we know that Damar Hamlin suffered an injury in a game leading up to the playoffs. I think it was the final game of the season for the Bills and the Bengals. A lot of controversy surrounding how that was covered, how the NFL was going to work through that. But Damar Hamlin, essentially died on the field, as what I gather. I think it was David Chow who has been on this podcast too. He is the sports MD. He was a sports doctor for the Chargers. Now he's moved a lot into the sports podcasting world. Like he's got his own show and things like this. And I thought he put it in a way. It kind of felt cold and like a little. He said this: if you're gonna die, if this is gonna happen to you, the best place for it to happen to you is an NFL field, because you have so many emergency responders and professionals right there. If this happens to somebody in a car crash and their heart stops, it could take minutes.
Well, recently, a lot of it has happened to some high school players and some middle school players. And tragically, they ended up dying because they just didn't have the type of CPR trained people at that football game to help.
Can I also point out too, though, that I think that the movies and television kind of dramatize CPR. Like literally, only about 6 or 7% of people that actually get CPR survive, which is what makes this with Damar Hamlin so much more crazy. Like the movies make it seem like everybody who gets it survives, but quite honestly, the majority of people, when I say majority, I mean upper 90% of people who get it do not survive. And should you survive this, you generally tend to have broken ribs, all kinds of different things, because you are trying to jumpstart a heart.
Right. Or it's keep it difficult. Going, right? Or just keep it not going, but keeping the blood flowing manually.
Yeah. And the movies make it seem like it always works, but quite honestly, it almost never works, which is why the Damar Hamlin thing was so crazy, because it almost never works. And
why does he got a wet blanket everything? Greg wet blankets this. Is this a PR move? Is this all for PR? Like the players doing it? Or maybe it's just raising awareness, right? They do say they have a commercial on the radio. Like if you listen to NPR and stuff, and it'll be like, remember, staying alive. Staying alive. That's the rhythm that you do. And they don't even tell you to do mouth to mouth anymore. Now it's just all pumping the chest. But here is the thing: is David Tepper. We're going to talk just momentarily about how David Tepper compares to another new owner in the Carolinas when it comes to Tom Dundon and the Hurricanes. David Tepper's stock has been down, and it's just in the past, I guess, since the firing of Matt Rule, and really since the hiring of Frank Reich, that things have started to turn around. Remember the press conference for Matt Rule explaining it? It was a disaster for David Tepper. He looked terrible. in that moment. And what we've seen is that we heard about her being on the hiring committee for Frank Reich. She really seems to be just a good person to have around, like makes David Tepper better. This is
whether
it's real, whether it's for show. The Carolina Panthers got a good headline right here and a good moment seeing them do that. So I just wanted to bring that up momentarily.
100%. And Tony, listen, we've all said before, David Tepper, when you listen to his interviews, for as incredibly smart as he is as a businessman, he's not necessarily a people person.
Like he's on the spectrum.
Yeah. So to me, it really kind of benefits to have that woman's touch and to have her being a part of this whole thing, man. And I think things like this kind of show that effort a little bit, and how important she has been to us. And hey, shout out all the ladies in Panther Nation, man. We wouldn't be able to do this without y'all as well. And listen to this. White Chocolate says, my cousin was a firefighter, had to give CPR, and the guy he had to break his ribs.
Yeah, it's a thing. Man. There was, I remember at one point, because litigation has like ruined the planet,
right?
Is that at some point someone was saying that like it was like, do people make business decisions and worried about getting sued and trying to help people?
100%.
I think, yeah. I think what this story does bring to light, maybe the Damar Hamlin story more than us with CPR training, which is, it's a nice, hey, look, it's a cool thing. This is like what the Panthers are supposed to use their power for, is like raising awareness. They got a big reach. So these things, they could be for show, but that show has us thinking and talking about it, and I'm sure got some donations for the American Heart Association. But I do think this has to do with like what we're probably talking about is having the right resources for sports teams, like having the best things, like having these doctors and things. And what maybe it's not on the NFL level, but like you guys brought up, like high school players. There was in my town, Greenville, North Carolina, in the late 90s, early 2000s, J.H. Rose won something like 5 state championships. They were a really strong football program for a while. They had a player who died of a concussion on the field. They did a documentary about it. Now he had suffered a concussion like earlier in the week or something, and then got and this kid died, and it was obviously it's a tragedy, but a lot of people first, the guy that was the sports doctor, or their not sports doctor, their trainer. There's a lot of questions about how qualified he was, right, to be a medical trainer. I mean, look, the guy ran when I was in high school. He ran detention, right? Like when we were late for class and stuff, it was him that I had to go to. Like in a way, he ended up killing himself later. And some
God damn, that story took a left turn.
Well, like, I mean, because
he killed himself.
Well, he got a lot of criticism, like he was the reason this kid died, that he didn't know what he was doing. You know what I mean? And so really what this does is just bring to light the need for the adequate trained people and resources at every level. And we know at the NFL, they've got the money and the resources to do it. But there's a lot of other places that we might need to give this consideration.
Yeah. So, so this is, I wanted to highlight a couple comments from PackMD, who added some stuff on this. Great topic of conversation. PackMD says, as a former paramedic and now doctor, please get CPR certified. You could be the difference between saving a life. And he also says you cannot be sued for doing CPR on a person going in cardiac arrest.
Nice.
Good Samaritan law protects you. So I actually had no idea about that.
This is good. See, now we have these conversations, and it helps us eliminate some of the fog around these discussions.
Yeah, right. That's why we love these discussions. Even our very own Panther Pickle, he says, I've given CPR many times years ago, working as a CNA and as a at a hospital and volunteering as an EMT on an ambulance. So, hey, man, look, we have every opinion accounted for amongst C3 Nation, dude. We have the best fans. And hey, no, that's a great.
Did we have super chats? Or did we already cover?
Oh no! You're right. Well, you're 100% correct. Let me cue.
By the way,
80%
of our revenue from the show comes from donations and fan support. So thank you very much. Is that while we do get a little bit for views and things on YouTube, it's not as awesome as like Mr. Beast. So we are a community that's supporting each other.
Absolutely. White Chocolate Espresso with the $1.99 says, y'all need models for the C3 clothing line? No, Kevin, you can't. Yeah, fine, whatever. You can do it, dude. I don't care. C3 Anthony Picarello says, join the C3 gang members with
Was
the
he the first one that did it?
It was him, Chad Morales,
and then D's.
Yeah, him, Chad Morales, D's. We had a few people, dude. Now there's a bunch of people on
Twitter, bro.
Dude,
swear on my life,
there's at least like 7 or 8 people on Twitter right now.
I love it.
C3
cool
in their name, dude, and more people keep popping up, dude. So I'm loving it. We have, dude. I don't care. We have the best fans, man. The best fans congregate around the C3 Panthers podcast, baby.